Good morning, Professor. I'm Luciano, and this is my ethic video PowerPoint research response number one. Uh-huh. Well, the first ethical theory is ethical relativism. The definition is that ethical relativism is the theory that holds that morality is relative to the norm of one's culture. This means that for one culture, maybe this is wrong and this is right, and maybe for another one, this is wrong and this is right. And it doesn't have to, there's no like a standard. There's not like something that you say, oh, this is right because maybe for another culture that is wrong. So you're not really sure. That's why I will say that I don't really like this ethical theory, but let's go on. Ethical claims, standards of truth, rationality, and ethical right and wrong vary, and that's the important word, vary greatly between cultures and historical events. That's the thing that I don't like about this. It says that it varies. That makes it subjective and doesn't actually have any grounded rationality behind it. It's just saying that, oh, maybe what you think is good is right, but maybe he thinks that is wrong. So there's not like a real answer. It's just like a matter of perspective and cultural difference. That's why I don't like it. But I'll talk about all of that later. Well, the ethical theory grounding is the dependency thesis that says that the validity of moral obligations, moral values, etc., depends upon the beliefs of moral agents or cultural groups. Well, basically says the same that it's grounded on that there's no actual true of what is right and what is wrong. It really depends on what the culture, the society, and it does is really really subjective. So now I'm gonna present the situation. In many Western countries, child labor is considered unethical and illegal. However, in some developing countries, children work to support their families out of economic necessity, and child labor is frequently culturally acceptable. Ethical relativism would suggest that moral judgment about child labor rely on cultural and economic conditions. So, like I said, maybe for an American person, you he would say that, oh, child labor is not good because a child is not prepared to work and to suffer all of the anxiety that working involves. But I don't know, a person in India, for example, would say that, oh, they have to work so that the family can really go forward and eat and really survive. So there's no actual truth on what is right and what is wrong. It really depends on the cultural context. The second one is the divine command theory. The definition is that is the belief that things are right because God commands them to be. Okay. Um, that itself I don't really like because this is a ethical theory that only applies for people that believe in God. So for that instance, I think that it doesn't go for everybody. So that's why I don't like this one either. Actually, this is the one I like the least, but I'll talk about that later. Ethical claims. An action is morally permissible if and only if and because God permits that action. An action is morally wrong if and only if and because God prohibits that action. Um, so yeah, what I said. This I don't like this one because first of all, you're depending merely on what God says. That not everybody thinks that he exists, starting by that. We are not sure about it. So it only applies for the people that believe in any God. And the second thing is that it also has this problem of the last theory, because it's really subjective. It varies a lot. The other one varied in cultures, different countries, contexts, and this one varies in different gods. This one varies in different gods because one god can say that this is good, the other god can say, oh, this thou is not good. So it's really subjective, and I don't like that because this is the thing that I will say later. But for me, for this kind of ethical standards and these ethical theories, for me, it gotta be at least a little bit subjective. I mean, yeah, nobody knows the truth of everything, but there has to be some rules or some methodology that works and is clear to be at least step by step so it can work. It's not like just, oh, because God said it, because we're not actually thinking, we're just following what somebody says without questioning it. And for example, in this God, if the Bible said something or another book of another religion says something, you're not gonna uh think of, hey, maybe this is right, maybe this is wrong. You're just gonna follow it. And I think that doesn't make us really question all of this stuff. It just makes us like sheeps that follow orders without thinking by ourselves. And that also applies for the other theory, because it's like, oh, my culture, I don't know, whatever. My culture says that, I don't know, eating pork is not good, so I'm just not gonna do it. But you're not thinking why. What I mean. This kind of ethical theories create really ignorant people for me. Maybe that's a strong statement. I'm sorry, that's just what I think. I'm open to debate. The ethical theory grounding. A person must believe that there is a willful and rational God that has provided the direction towards an ethical outcome. And like I said, there's a really good example for this. That is, in certain countries, Muslim women are legally or culturally obligated to wear the hijab. I don't know how to pronounce that, but you know what I mean. The thing that you put, but you see, you can see it in the picture. While in others, it is a personal choice or even prohibited. The divine command idea holds that moral duties are determined by God's will, as revealed in religious literature. In Islam, the Quran requires women to dress modestly. So you could say, oh, just because the book of God says that women should wear this thing in their heads, and then that's what is ethically right, and not doing it is wrong. But I'm sure that you understand that um, that's not something rational, because why would a woman be obligated to wear kind of that kind of clothes in public? Why men are not obligated to do so? You can see how you can see how what I mean about this. So just by using this example, I think that everyone could agree with me that this practice of wearing this stuff in your head is just nonsense, and it really um it's really not doesn't make sense. So yeah, I don't like this ethical theory either. Natural law theory definition: system of rights or justice held to be common to all humans and derived from nature rather than from the rules of society. Positive law. Ethical claims: humans are born with a certain moral compass that guides behaviors. Ethical theory grounding: human beings are not taught natural law per se. Instead, we discover it by constantly making choices for good instead of evil. So this says basically to follow our instincts, and that's what develops what's right and wrong. But I'm not really sure about that, because like you can see in the picture, the lion is eating the crocodile just because, the food chain, he has to survive. If I follow my instincts, I would say, oh, yo, I need to survive. I will just kill you and rob all your money and all your food and maybe eat you. Because who knows? If I want to survive, maybe I will just eat you. And we all can agree that that's not fair. That's not ethical. So I think there's a more developed way of stating our standards and our ethical rights and wrongs. So I don't like this one either. Let me put you a situation. A terminally sick patient is in severe pain with no hope of recovery and ask physician-assisted euthanasia to end their suffering. Natural law theory claims that moral principles originated from human nature and the fundamental goal of existence, which is to preserve and enhance human life. Well, this is actually a really um, hard topic because, of course, not everyone is supports euthanasia, but still is a good example just to explain what a natural law theorist would think in this case, in this situation. Because, well, um, in our instincts, our number one priority is to survive, is to live. So, a natural law theorist would say that there's no way that I'm killing myself, even though I'm suffering, because my instincts say not to kill. So, it's just an example to explain how natural law theorist thinks. Yeah, the person is really sick and is really suffering a lot, but and wants to die, but a natural law theorist would think that that's not the right thing to do. Maybe you agree with him, maybe you don't, but this explains why a natural law theorist would think this way because a moral principle originated from human nature is to exist and to survive. Kantianism and deontology. Definition is an ethical theory that uses rules to distinguish right from wrong. Ethical claims we're morally obligated to act in accordance with a certain set of principles and rules regardless of outcome. Ethical theory grounding. Humans possess the ability to reason and understand universal moral laws that they can apply in all situations. So basically is about stating some rules and just follow all of these rules. It's I think this one is better than the other ones because I mean at least you're basing it on something. But what I don't like is that at least me, I prefer to question every case separately, not just follow rules. I don't like the fact to follow rules because I like to question everything that I know, question everything that somebody tells me. I like to question everything so I can just understand why and then understand the other why, just like Socrates. And in this way, I can be more sure of what I think and how to act. And yeah, it's a good ethical theory, at least better than the other ones, because this one at least is objective. I mean, it doesn't vary. It are just rules that you have to follow. But again, who decides those rules? So it's not really clear. It's not too open-minded. It's really close to the fact of questioning what's right and what is wrong, and I really like questioning, so I wouldn't say that this one is my favorite, but still, it's not as bad as the other ones, I think. A person's loved one is critically ill and requires expensive medication to survive. The individual cannot afford the medication and is considering stealing it from a drugstore in order to save their loved one's life. If stealing were widely allowed, society would collapse, making the concept of personal property unimportant. Therefore, stealing the drug would be morally unacceptable, even if could save a life. So here you can see how the rule is stealing is bad, and then you cannot do it in any situation. You can say stealing is bad. Yeah, stealing is bad. I think we can all agree on that. But just like lying is bad, lying is bad. But still, there are some cases that it's better to lie. For example, if I don't know, you're gonna, I don't know, you're gonna die. Um, I cannot think right now of an example, but you know what I mean. Like there are some lies that are good, that are good. Maybe if you have 1 month left to live, and I don't know, your son just died, but he's in another country, maybe you can avoid telling that person that his son died, so he could enjoy his life before dying instead of just being sad that one last time that he had. It's not a perfect example, but still, you can see how although lying is bad in general, it's not bad in all situations. That's why I don't like that much this theory, because it's really not open-minded in those small situations and specific detailed situations that can really have those rules like lying and stealing that doesn't apply, or there can be other better solutions. Utilitarianism, definition, is an ethical theory that determines right from wrong by focusing on outcomes. Ethical claims, people naturally desire happiness, that happiness derives from pleasure, that actions that generate pleasure and reduce pain are ethically good and right. Ethical theory grounded. Utilitarian belief that the purpose of morality is to make life better by increasing the amount of good things in the world and decreasing the amount of bad things. Well, you're gonna see that I can just dislike something about every theory, of course. This is not a bad one. I mean, I can say a lot of good stuff about it, but I can also say a lot of bad things about it. If I just focus on the ethical claim, that again, it's not me inventing things, it's just professional people talking. You can see where it's cited. People naturally desire happiness. That happiness derives from pleasure. That action that generate pleasure and reduce pain are ethically good and right. I can say that taking drugs makes you feel good, makes you feel pleasure. So I would say, oh, that's ethically good. Taking drugs is ethically good. And we can all agree that that's not ethically good. So I think this is a really short-term mindset that although it can help you, yeah, in the short term, in the long term, I'm not pretty sure. A runaway train is accelerating towards five workers on the tracks who will be killed if nothing is done. You can pull a lever to redirect the train to another track with only one worker present. If you do nothing, five people die. If you pull the lever, one person dies. Utilitarianism, which evaluates actions based on their consequences and seeks to maximize overall well being, would argue that pulling the lever is the morally correct choice. We saw this example in class, and yeah, it's a really mathematical way of thinking, of just saying, oh, it's five, the other road only kills one, let's just choose the one and save the five. It applies for some cases, but it's not good in every situation. Like I said, there are some things that are just more complex than just numbers. It's not just only five and one. You can say, oh, that person has the cure of cancer. He could save millions of lives. So, really, having this ethical theory really well grounded is very hard. So I'm not sure if I like it, but still, it's a decent ethical theory. Virtue theory. It defines good actions as ones that display embody virtuous character traits like courage, loyalty, or wisdom. Ethical claims. There are certain ideals such as excellence or dedication to the common good towards which we should strive and which allow the full development of our humanity. Ethical theory grounding. Instead of asking what is the right action here and now, virtue ethics ask what kind of person should one be in order to get it right all the time. Yeah, it's a reasonable theory, but what makes you a good person at the end of the day? So still, this theory by itself is not as specific as the other ones. It says, yo, do good things to be a good person, and that will make you do right things. Just be a good person. Yeah, but how do you define how to be a good person? So that's what I don't like about this theory. Is it really depends on other theories for this theory to work. I don't know if that makes sense, but by itself, I think that it's a theory that lacks explanation of what is right and what is wrong. It's just saying that focus on you being a good person and then you will do the right thing. Yeah, but what's being a good person? That's what I mean. Maybe I didn't investigate a lot in this one or I'm not understanding well, but what I can see it's just it's just a not brave way of thinking because you're not stating anything. But anyway, let's see the situation. A person is walking home and notices an elderly woman struggling to carry her groceries across the street. The individual is in a rush and could ignore the problem, but they can also stop and help. In this case, a virtuous person would help the old woman, since doing so demonstrates characteristics such as kindness and compassion, which are good things. But again, how do we know those are good things, right things? Kindness and compassion. That's what I'm saying. This ethical theory works, makes sense, but by itself it doesn't. You need another. What I think you need another ethical theory behind it for this one to make sense. But anyways, focusing on this scenario, yeah, it's good to be a good person. Again, not focusing on what is being a good person. We're just not gonna focus on that. It's good being a good person, but what if this person is in a rush and he needs to, I don't know, drop his kid to school, and if he doesn't, the kid is gonna be late. You could say, "Oh, but I need to be kind to this woman." Yeah, but you also have to think about your child. So it's there are a lot of situations in which theory could be really hard to make choices. That's why I don't think it's a really well-grounded theory. Contractarianism definition is the idea that morality comes from agreements between people. Moral norms and obligation arise from mutual consent and cooperation, suggesting that individuals have a rational self-interest in creating and adhering to these contracts for the benefit of all. Ethical theory grounding is based on the premise that moral and political obligations originate from individuals' rational decision to build a cooperative society that benefits everyone. Okay, this one is my favorite, but besides that, what this means is basically focusing on what's the best for society, but still being self-interested. Because you can say, oh, the best for society is if everyone help each other, but you know that that's not gonna happen. Communism doesn't work, like us, it's obvious. But that's why communism doesn't work, because the human beings are selfish. That's why I like this one. It just accepts that individuals have a rational self-interest in creating and adhering to these contracts for the benefit of all. Yeah, it's saying to have self-interest of uh, doing contracts for the wealth of the society, but still focusing on the self-interest. Um, that's what I like. I help you because you're gonna help me, and maybe you say, "Oh, but I don't know, that's not good. You should help others without expecting something in exchange." But just think how society works. You don't just, I don't know, you just don't go and clean somebody's house for free. You expect money from it. Why? Because that's what motivates you to work for somebody. So you receive something in exchange. And you can say, oh, but that's a really sad way to think of morality. Yeah, you can argue that. But at least I think that that's a theory that at least works. Maybe it's not the best one. Like I said, I can just point out things that doesn't work in any theory, but at least this is the most law grounded and politically and economically grounded theory that has been um, has been demonstrated that works, at least what we can see in society. At least we're improving as a society. Maybe slow, but we're improving, you know? So that's why I like this theory, because at least it's objective, and it's for the wealth of everyone, and it's realistic. Now the situation. A citizen dislikes paying taxes and contemplates evading them, claiming that they work hard for their money and should not be required to contribute to public services that they do not personally use. Contractarianism argues that paying taxes is a moral obligation since it is part of the social contract that individuals implicitly commit to by becoming members of society. Because everyone benefits from public goods like infrastructure, education, and security, rational individuals would agree to taxation as a fair exchange for these benefits. Yeah, like it says, rational individuals. Not everyone would. You can say, oh, but who are you to say who's rational and who's not? Of course, that's what I'm saying. Every theory has its throwbacks, but at least this one is I say like society based for the best of society. So yeah, paying taxes, I mean you're spending money. That itself is, you can say it's not self-interested, but it actually is because you're paying for the public services to work and you can benefit from that. So that's an agreement between you and society as a whole. I'm gonna pay taxes for my good and for your good. Everyone is going to. So we're gonna just all together have an agreement on something that will work. So that's how an ethical theorist would act in this situation. Like I said, for me, the most persuasive ethical theory is contractarianism. Um, is the most appealing ethical theory, in my opinion. It based morality on rational self-interest and mutual agreement, making ethical principle practical and achievable at least. Because if we base something like as widely big as, for example, God, we're not gonna we're not gonna get into an agreement and something that is achievable and practical. But if we focus on the best in society, it's not gonna be easy either, but it's gonna be more easy for me. Easier, it's what I think. So this is the more practical ethical theory for me. That's what I think. The least persuasive ethical theory for me is divine command theory, as I said. It's the least persuasive ethical theory in my opinion, since it relies morality completely on God's will, relying on religious belief rather than rationality. Again, a lot of throwbacks. If you don't believe in God in the first place, this theory doesn't apply for you. And that's a lot of people. So I cannot say that this is a um, ethical theory that would apply for everyone. And also, there are a lot of religions that contradicts themselves. So, like I said, it's not for me. It's not a good ethical theory. This is my works cited. Yeah, a lot of citations for this work. And yeah, that's it. I hope you liked this presentation. And maybe I'm too harsh in some opinions, but that's just what I think. And yeah, thank you very much for listening to me.